Going to one battle after another, my expectations were honestly through the roof. Everyone had been calling this movie a masterpiece for months. The early screenings were hyped to the heavens, and when you hear that Paul Thomas Anderson is behind the camera, that just raises the bar even higher. I've loved his work for years because it doesn't just make movies, he makes experiences. He's the kind of filmmaker who doesn't mind making you uncomfortable, challenging you, and forcing you to think long after the credits roll. So when the reviews started coming out saying this is one of his boldest, weirdest, and most ambitious projects yet, I knew I had to go in expecting nothing less than a cinematic event. And given how much I love his previous films, especially the way he combines character-driven storytelling with larger societal critiques, I was ready for something dense, something challenging, and something unforgettable. And let me just say right here, I love this movie. I absolutely loved it. It lived up to the hype in my eyes and then some. What PTA managed to pull off here is staggering because it's not just a film, it's like a cinematic essay, a political satire, a family tragedy, and an action thriller all rolled into one. What really floored me was how it balanced being so wildly entertaining with being deeply thought-provoking. There were stretchers where I was on the edge of my seat gripping the armrest because the tension was so high, and then there were stretches where I was just sitting there kind of blown away by how raw and emotional the performances were. It's messy in spots, sure, but it's that intentional messiness, the kind that feels true to the story being told. PTA wanted this movie to feel overwhelming, chaotic, and unstable because that's the world is holding a mirror up to, and for me it completely worked. One battle after another tells the story of Bob Ferguson, a former revolutionary and explosive expert, now living in self-imposed exile in Northern California with his daughter Willa. 16 years ago, Bob, known as Ghetto Pat, was a key member of the radical group French 35, carrying out daring operations against government forces. The plot itself is this mix of personal stakes and national stakes. You've got Leo desperately trying to save his daughter while also trying to survive this escalating political meltdown. It's one part family drama, one part political satire, and one part survival thriller. PTA's weaving together so many different threads: the corruption of power, the weaponization of media, the way exorcism festers, and the way ordinary people get chewed up in the process. At times it almost feels surreal, but it never tips into complete fantasy. Instead, it feels exaggerated just enough that you realize it's a distorted reflection of the world we're already living in. Now let's talk about the positives, because this movie is stacked with them. First and foremost, the themes. This is an ambitious film with a lot on its mind. It dives into polarization, generational trauma, extremism, memory, erasure, all these incredibly timely issues. And the best part is that it doesn't feel like it's lecturing you. Instead, it lets the satire play out alongside deeply emotional character beats, so you're laughing one minute, horrified the next, and heartbroken right after that. PTA knows how to hit you with multiple layers at once, and it makes the whole experience feel richer. The performance is absolutely phenomenal. Leonardo DiCaprio once again proves why he's one of the best actors working today. He's completely locked in. Whether he's spitting out rapid-fire dialogue in the middle of a chaotic strategy meeting or breaking down in silence during a quiet moment with his daughter, he nails it. Sean Penn as Lockjaw is a revelation. This might be one of my favorite performances of his in years because he gets to be both terrifying and really funny. He's larger than life, but never so over the top that he feels fake. And Chase Infinity is a breakout star in the making. She brings this vulnerability and authenticity to your role that balances out the chaos around her. Honestly, without her, the movie doesn't hit as hard emotionally as it does. One of the things that really surprised me about One Battle After Another was just how funny it is. Even with its heavy and chaotic subject matter, Paul Thomas Anderson manages to slip in moments of absurd dark humor that blend perfectly without undercutting the tension or stakes of the story. Leonardo DiCaprio, while carrying a lot of emotional weight, also has these perfectly timed reactions and lines that are genuinely hilarious, especially when he's navigating some of the more ridiculous situations the film throws at them. Sean Penn's Lockjaw also has moments of comedic absurdity. His over-the-top antics and chaotic energy are terrifying but also strangely funny in a way that adds to his unhinged character. These moments of levity balance the intensity of the film and make it an experience that can make you laugh just as hard as it makes you grasp.
Time is it?
Fuck. You know, I don't remember that part. All right, let's just not nitpick over the password.
On a technical level, this movie is gorgeous. PTA's direction is firing on all cylinders. He's working with Vista Vision and drone shots, and the result is this incredibly dynamic visual style. You get moments that feel intimate and raw, but then you'll suddenly get these huge sweeping images that give the story this massive scope. It's the perfect balance of scale and intimacy, and of course, Johnny Greenwood's score is phenomenal. The way he mixes jagged, chaotic sounds with haunting melodies creates this constant feeling of unease, like the movie itself is vibrating with tension. His music adds so much weight to every scene, whether it's an action sequence or a quiet emotional exchange. Now, I do have to address the negatives, even if they didn't really bother me personally. The length is definitely something people will bring up. This movie runs close to 3 hours, and for some viewers, that's going to feel like a lot. There are sections, especially in the final act, where it drags a bit. You can feel the weight of all the threads PTA is juggling, and while I think it mostly works, I understand why some people might feel it gets overwhelming. There's also the fact that the complimentary sometimes leans close to being a little too on the nose. I thought it balanced satire and sincerity well, but I get why some viewers might roll their eyes at certain moments. For me though, those issues don't come close to sinking the film. One better after another is the kind of movie that reminds me why I love cinema in the first place. It's ambitious, messy, bold, emotional, satirical, and unforgettable. It's not just content to entertain you, it wants to challenge you, provoke you, and stick with you long after you've left the theater, and I can confidently say it succeeded on every level. Overall, I'm giving One Battle After Another a 9.25 out of 10. It's one of my favorite movies of the year so far, and I think it's going to be one of those films that we're still talking about years down the line. So that's my full take on One Battle After Another. I'd love to hear what you think about it. Did it live up to the hype for you, or did any of the parts fall flat? Drop your thoughts, reactions, or favorite moments, because I'm always curious to see how others experience this film. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.